Oh. All right. So, class, what we were talking about earlier today when we were reading our book was how we read out loud, and we kind of chunk the text to have it make sense within the sentence, right? Jada, when I paused in the middle of the sentence, what was there?
A comma.
A comma, right? So sometimes punctuation, you're going to stop in the middle of a sentence. But sometimes the punctuation is not going to be there, right? So we have to just look at the phrases in a sentence that make sense. You know, for instance, if I said, Marty had lived in Happyville since she was born. Well, a phrase in that sentence is like Marty had lived, right? Marty had lived, cool. Or you could say Marty had lived in Happyville and then make a pause, right? When does that long pause occur though? When you're reading out loud.
A paragraph.
At the end of a paragraph, but also when?
Sentence.
Yeah, perfect. End of the sentence, right? So what I'm going to have you guys do as in partners here is you're going to each get the same reading passage, and you're going to put lines in that reading passage to where you think there's going to be a short pause in the middle of the sentence and where you think there will be that long pause. Okay? Remember that you're not always going to have punctuation in the middle of the sentence to help you figure out where that short pause is. You got to read it, and you have to think, all right, this phrase makes sense. I'm not going to pause in the middle of like me saying, I lived in Georgia because this, and that. You're not going to pause with I lived in Georgia, right? I lived in Georgia because this, and that, right? Makes a little bit more sense that way. So I'm going to pass these out, and what you're each going to do is you're going to do it by yourself first. Then you're going to read to each other out loud using the pauses that you've created. It might make a little bit more sense when I give you what you're going to do. So I'm going to give you a short paper first. This little short paper is going to help you, it gives you a little bit of a tip as to how to complete your reading passage and finding where the short and long pauses are. All right? Short and long pauses. So let me pass that out. And before you begin with your partner, I'll just say one more thing, and then we'll get to it.
Wait, thank you.
You're so welcome. You gotta take your hood off there.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Do we put our names on this? I can't do it.
Yes, put your name at the top.
Mr. Griffin, I can't do it.
With my initials. I don't feel like wearing my name today.
Griffin.
Thomas, I'm gonna do this with you. You're gonna be my partner.
So you're just gonna help him with everything. That's not fair, Griffin.
I mean, I'm helping everybody with
I didn't
everything.
help.
Can I be their partner?
That's my shoe.
Okay, so look at the tips here. All right? Look at the tips here. Chunking text. This is kind of what we're doing, right? We're chunking it into things that make sense.
I know that this one is.
So Cameron,
Yeah?
tell us what divide or chunk sentences into meaningful phrases to practice fluent reading. Read number 1 and 2 there.
Number 1. Place a single slash mark to indicate a small or short pause at the end of a phrase within the sentence. Number 2. Place 2 slash marks at the end of a sentence to indicate a longer pause.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So when you're reading this passage, you can pretend to read it out loud for yourself, but this also is very helpful when you're silently reading, right? So anywhere in that sentence where you think you're going to have a short pause, right? You need to put 1 slash where that pause would be. when you think there's a long pause, typically happens when?
At the end of the sentence.
At the end of a sentence, right? You want to put 2 slashes.
And it has an example at the bottom.
Absolutely.
Can I read it?
Yeah, so Jada, go ahead and read that example at the bottom. For
Mom
us.
relaxed in the chair and
Thought?
thought about the day when she could go on vacation.
Yeah, so, you know, this is more about chunking text here because honestly, you probably, when you're reading out loud, when you get good at it, right, you probably wouldn't pause that often in the middle of a sentence. But what this does is it helps you really break down the sentence to increase how fast you're going to read after practicing it over and over again.
You're not drawing me.
Right? So, keep in mind. Thomas, go ahead and hit and read the keep in mind part for us real quick. All right. So Mia,
Can I help you?
Mia, read the keep in mind section for us.
Amen. There are no
Hey,
defined
shh. Go ahead, Mia.
to separate sentences in
Into phrases.
phases. Phrases.
Correct.
Shut up,
All right.
please.
Hey, nice.
No, thank you. Please.
Cameron.
Okay. Most people pause somewhere in the middle of sentences. Sometimes subjects and predicates are placed in separate
Phrases. Mhm.
Prepositions. Shut up.
Fantastic. Prepositional. Phrases.
Phrases, verbs, phrases, and noun phrases may
Signal.
signal a pause.
Very good. Punctuation.
Punctuation marks within and at the end of sentences signal phrases
Yeah.
and pauses.
Perfect. All right. So these are little tips as to where you might find those short pauses in the middle of a sentence. So as you're reading through your passage, you want to make sure that you're looking for those things and putting your slash. Okay? And remember, long pauses get 2 slashes. Any questions before you two get started?
Question. Are we doing it on the long one or the short one?
So you're doing on your reading passage at the top.
Here, okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to start doing your short pauses and your long pauses with slashes and double slashes.
I have a question.
Yes?
Why does it say fluency on the bottom and it just
Well, the way that I have it is that it's actually supposed to be a tent, but I just cut it in half so you each have one to look at.
Okay.
Okay? So go ahead and get started. Each of you do this by yourself first. Then when you finish, silently, then when you finish, you're going to take turns reading it to one another and comparing what you got. Okay? Where you put your pauses and your long pauses. And we'll come back and we'll look at it.
I need help.
Okay? You haven't even started yet. I
Yes, I
literally
did.
finished the directions.
Look. 1, 2, 1.
Cameron, you have to read it first. You have to read the whole story first and then figure out where you can put your pauses.
And then I can put like 1,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Since she was born.
2, 2.
You don't need help. You know what you're doing. You need help with your confidence, girl. You got this.
Okay, Liam. Where's your pencil? Where's your pencil?
The whole
You need to put chewing on it.
Alright, let's see what you got.
Okay, where do you think our discussion?
I was late. I'm this part now.
Okay.
So that was one.
Right here. And what do I have to take?
Two right here, short line, right there.
Marty.
You're going. I
totes.
Isn't Marty a boy? Marty a boy?
The rest of it looks good. I like where you're.
Isn't Marty a boy name? Because it says a she.
Oh,
I mean, it could be a she or a he. But in this story, it is a she.
That sounds transgender.
I mean, hey, whatever. Maybe so.
Miss Chris.
Yes.
She was doing. She had it all wrong, so I let her look at mine.
Okay.
So I see.
That's okay. That's why we're in partners. We're learning with each other. Yeah. Sure.
How about
Absolutely.
this? How about this part?
Well, it's group of two. So
What about this one?
for the next.
And this one?
Is that an end of the
The
sentence?
next activity.
Good job, Liam. It's not actually screaming through it this time.
That's what I'm talking about.
The whole passage. It's actually. See, look. The whole thing.
Mhm.
Like this?
Alright, come on. Perfect.
Mr. Preferred, I need your help.
Alrighty then.
I still haven't gotten an idea.
Yeah,
I thought this is two.
Okay.
Because everything
Perfect.
is two.
If you want to just look for all
Now
of
she-
the sentences. Like
See? Good job writing your name. Is that fine?
I like this. Wait,
and
I didn't
then
write my
you
name.
go back and look for your short pauses if that is. the
Does that count?
Oh,
Yep.
Well, I know you can write
Any
me.
punctuation is gonna clear the pause. So they're gonna do that as well, so the easiest part to find the long pauses are gonna be where the ends of sentences
I
are.
hope you're doing
That's when you put two slashes. So you want, so, yeah, slash as well. So right here.
We'll keep this cat right here.
So,
No, actually, we can't. Okay, are we going to start reading to each other now?
Just giving a couple more minutes for people to get through it, and
See, Liam, I know you can actually
then
read.
we'll.
I think I'm done.
Liam's got fantastic handwriting.
That's why I was like, Liam, I'm finna erase this.
He doesn't show it very often, but
I'm
he's
done.
got one of the best handwriting in the classroom.
That's
He really does.
good. Definitely his cursive. His name in
Right,
cursive.
so you're good with looking at
My
the
teacher
punctuation.
taught me how to write my name in cursive.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered it the first try.
Just like that. Very good, Cameron.
So do I, wait,
No,
can
I
I
just
Uh-huh.
So do I put another slash right here after the draw?
And just draw the face.
You can.
Okay, so will that make sense or no?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. How we doing, Thomas? Terrible. I want to hear that. Let's see what we got.
Have you read the book Pug Pack? They have it at the unit. It's pretty good. It's about two pugs trying to save this one down. One of the other pugs bunny off down.
Is it a comic book?
No, a story. And one part of there's like a lot of dogs in it too. It doesn't show one picture of a cat in it. And besides, if you count that one cat stuffed animal, that Sunny the pug has.
Mr. Griffin, come look at this.
Sure.
I never even noticed.
You guys about 2 more minutes, and then we'll go ahead and read to each other. That's fine.
They stared like that, we need attention. Evan
Okay. Okay.
Me too.
Oh, okay. Right. Gotcha. It's called perspective. That's cool.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
is this good?
Let's check it out.
Is this good? Can you come to me with
She
the
asked me, she took it to get in there.
I'm good?
Nice camera.
Yay.
All of your long pauses. Here we go. So with the short pauses, let's start here. So Marty describes
Okay. I hope you're doing
phrase, Marty.
Stop talking to him.
It's a song.
Phrase.
Do your own work.
I'm already done.
Stop bothering him.
Makes a burning flame. Better way to get a burning ring of fire. Down, 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 and the flame will ring of fire by Johnny Cash.
I do not know how to talk. All I know how to talk is. I got. I just went out of there.
So try and find it.
So am I supposed to read it to her?
You're gonna read to each other, yes. Yes. What? Okay.
Mr. Griffin, so at the short passes, do I wait 2 seconds and then at the long passes?
Don't even like try and time yourself by seconds. Just, as you're talking, la 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 la. La 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 la. Give it a brief pause. You don't have to think in yourself for seconds. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and I know you guys want me to check yours, but I'm gonna have you guys check each other's by reading to one another. Okay? So Haley, Cameron, and Jada, read to your partner how you have your pauses, and then once you guys are done, your partner is gonna read to you.
Marty had lived happy since she was born. Next week, however, Marty and her family were moving over 1,000 miles away to Washington. Marty despised the idea of moving to Washington.
So read that to me.
Marty decided to be Leah's best friend. She played on the soccer team for 2 years. She hated leaving her team. She would not be sleeping in her bedroom, but she loved to have the race all by herself. She hated anybody leaving her team. Marty's dad had gotten it. She would not be sleeping in her bedroom. But she loved that there would be lots of other things. Her brother was too young for anything. Marty's dad could, but she did good. When she had to language and she would have to go to her mother told
My favorite and my dad's.
the whole situation was there because they were moving on Marty's birthday. She was going to turn 11 for lunch that night. Her brother and today she was to spend her birthday packing up essentially to the house. How could this be? How's be good when she her no anywhere have to go and she would never ask for she next week to a Marty woke up in the whole situation was worse because they Actually, a good thing.
Marty and stories.
She mine was away. Instead, she was going to spell for the bedrooms, packing, and washing the contents of the house. Being on the track, and what about her birthday? What about saying we did with that? What about her birthday? Before she turned 20, nobody asked me what she wanted. Her bed. She didn't stay in bed. One morning, Marty woke up and decided to try the new approach. She would make plans about how this could actually make a good thing. I would have turned around.
Okay, so if you guys haven't finished reading your passage, it's okay. Now the next person read. Okay? The other person read to your partner. Alright, just read the first paragraph. First paragraph.
Marty had lived in Hatterville since she was born. Next week, however, Marty and her family were moving over 100,000 miles away to Washington. Marty despite the idea of moving for another reason. She was to be leaving her best friend. She played on the soccer team for 2 years. She hated leaving their team. She would not be sleeping in her bedroom, which she loved and had decorated all by herself. She just hated the whole thing. Ooh, Marty,
Good job.
Nice job working as a team.
One of my favorite was when Sunny's music be like it just showed that she says they're in the
Alright, very good. Nice job. Nice job. No, I know, it's a paragraph. Awesome. Alright, back up here, guys. Back up here. Nice job. Now, Isaiah, when is the most obvious time I should use a short pause in the middle of a sentence? When I see what?
Just itches.
Fantastic. Good job. Any sort of punctuation in the middle of a sentence, guys, remember, is when you take that short pause. Now, Camilla, when do I use a long pause? What part of the sentence am I using a long pause in?
At the end.
Fantastic, at the end. Remember, anything like an exclamation point, a period, a question mark, that's your long pause. All right? So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to collect what you've done. And then if you guys have any questions about it, we'll talk about it in a little while. All right? Thank you.